Well, I am going to share with you a little bit of a journey that I've been on for the last 12 years now, which might not seem like a long time to some that said this body is only 30. So it's almost half of this life I've been on this journey. And really, it's a journey of remembrance, and it's an invitation for us all to just be ourselves. And where I'm at in this moment right now is like just radical authenticity to the 100th degree, and it's really fun, and it's it's really great to be here and to feel this connection with an ability to fully express without limitations, without masks. Oh my goodness. There have been so many masks removed to get me here right now in this moment, expressing this all to you. And yeah, this idea of speaking our truth is pretty activated. You know, one of the number one fears of humanity is public speaking, right? Of speaking, of connecting to your peers, to each other, right? This is one of the greatest human fears, is speaking our truth, is connection with each other through our spoken word. And that just, at one point now it seems crazy to me because there's just this effortless flow of communication that said, if I go back 12 years to the beginning of this journey of reclaiming my truth and my authentic soul self, I would think that, it wasn't so crazy, because there was a time in my life when I was silenced, zip, lock sealed. I wouldn't even tell my friends, my closest friends, what was going on inside of myself, which is pretty crazy, because those are the people that you really rely on. And yeah, I shared myself to a certain extent that said I would constantly feel, and maybe you have felt this as well, and let me know if you've experienced this before, where there is just something so badly inside of you that wants to be spoken to a family member, to a loved one, to a client, to whomever it is, and you know what it is, you can hear it, you can feel it, and you go to speak it and nothing will come out. It's literally like crickets, just and your whole body like collapses. Have you ever felt that before, where your whole body literally just like collapses and you just can't speak what it is that you know so clearly inside of you wish to share with this person? I would love to hear just let me know if you've experienced this before. Where are we at? And I'm so happy that you're all here with me, both Instagram and Facebook. This is so fun that we get to like play together in this way. Anyways, so in my experience, and the vast majority of people that I've been blessed to support and also just to commune with, this is constantly something that comes up in my field. People are constantly sharing with me that they feel blocked in this area of truly being able to express themselves, truly being able to speak what's on their heart. And there are a couple of core things that I found in my personal journey as to be the reasons why I've, silenced myself. And I'll share a little bit about my journey with you so that you just understand how I've come here. Because there's a lot of energy in the field, and we get curious about each other, and we want to know, well, who is this person that's talking to me? How did she get to be where she is? So that we can relate with each other, and so that we can find resonance within each other. So for me, my journey of silencing my truth began very, very young. My parents were divorced when I was 2 years old, and I at first went and lived with my mother, and then there was like really intense custody battle that ensued for about the next 3 years of my life. And there finally came a few moments in time where my brother and I were asked for our opinions, asked who we wanted to live with, who we wanted to, you know, go with, because it was really intense. You know, like divorce is very challenging, and it is so painful for the child, especially when you're that young. And it can be a very intense time, especially if the two people who are getting divorced really don't like each other. And that was the case with my parents. They really never liked each other, just to be real with it. And chances are my mom's going to watch this. And you know I love you, Mom. And I love my dad too. So they're epic people. They just weren't supposed to be together. The only reason they were together was to bring me and my brother onto the planet. And that's just the way it is. That said, in this moment of time in our lives, when we were asked who we wanted to go and live with, I won't share who that was for me, that said the person that I had said, this is who I want to be with, I was not listened to. And what then ensued was a lot of pain, a bit of abuse that happened from not being heard. And this little tiny Jessica at the time, you know, before the age of 5 years old, learned that it wasn't safe to speak her truth, that she wasn't valued and that she wasn't going to be heard. And from that moment forward, she's bottled everything deep down inside and was like, just suppressed everything, bottled everything so deep. And for the longest time, I had a scowl on my face. And for those of you who know me now, it's very rare that I have a scowl, because it's just a lot of joy that I experience most of the time. Most of the time, not all the time. Not all the time. And that's just being human. That said, there was a scowl because what was happening is I was suppressing everything. I was suppressing my truth. I was suppressing how I felt. I was suppressing what was going on inside of me, because I learned at such a young age that it wasn't safe, that I wasn't valued, that what I said didn't matter, and that if I spoke out, I could potentially be abused for saying things that wasn't going to please someone else. So at a very young age, and this is when most of us pick this up, when we're children, we pick up this pattern that says it's not safe to communicate and express who you are. It's not safe to be your true self, that this world isn't going to be able to fully show up and provide the space for you to learn how to express your truth. And since this is picked up at such a young age, what ends up happening, because we're constantly, our subconscious in those early years, right before the age of 7, you're just programming your subconscious. Boom, programming your subconscious. You haven't even developed the brain waves for your conscious mind to even be turned on yet. So it's all going into subconscious programming. So what then ends up happening is, moving forward, your subconscious is continually putting out this program that it's not safe to be yourself, that it's not safe to express your truth. And then our conscious mind is constantly trying to, let's say, provide is the best way, provide for the unconscious. It's trying to constantly please and provide the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind, currently where we're at as humans in our brain development, is running the show. Our conscious mind is really serving the programs of our unconscious. So when we have these programs of our unconscious that say, hey, not safe to be yourself, then our conscious mind is going to constantly be creating experiences to validate that. So for me, that was growing up and going to all girls Catholic school and having several experiences where teachers would tell me that my opinion papers were wrong, that I was, well, I was called a Jezebel spirit many times. And if you don't know what a Jezebel spirit is, it's one that's here to like destroy the Catholic Church. And yeah, I just kind of laugh at that now. That said, anything that I had to say was usually pretty much put down. I was told I was wrong several bases in writing, right? In the theology classes and in the writing classes. In math and in science, I was top of the class, so it didn't really matter there. That said, in the core of where you learn how to cultivate and express yourself, these areas I was constantly being told I was wrong. And I know that I'm not the only one that has had this experience where in their environments, you know, their parents or their teachers or their friends, you know, who who are all just moving through their own karma, who are all just having their own experiences, don't know how to show up and support you because they haven't learned how to show up and support themselves. So we pick up all these programs that say it's not safe, and that if we do express our truth, we might be wrong. And then if we're wrong, someone's going to shut us down and we're going to be rejected, or we're going to be laughed at, or we're going to be criticized, or we're going to be abandoned. And the people that we love are going to leave us, which then triggers this very deep core wounding that it's not safe to be here. And when that core wounding gets turned on that says it's not safe to be here, we instantly go into a mode where we go into survival. And we will do anything to survive. And that means put on a mask that fits everyone's comfort zones. So if there's someone that's uncomfortable with our emotional expression because they haven't learned how to express themselves emotionally yet, we will shut down our emotions around them. If this is a parent who you're spending a majority of your time, you're picking up all your stories from, that isn't able to process emotions, then likely you're going to suppress that ability to emotionally vulnerably express yourself, which then shows up in your relationships, in your most intimate relationships. And that was the case for me. Is that was the place that I was so shut down, was in intimate relationships. I was unable to speak to my partner how I was feeling, what was going on. I was constantly submissive, just saying, yeah, it's okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine, whatever you want. Just constantly pleasing, because I was so afraid that if I expressed how much emotion I naturally have moving through me and my opinions about the world, that I would be shut down and rejected. And then that belief, that core belief, then showed up in relationships of men who would call me stupid or would laugh at my emotional response. But then just what that did was just validate that story in my subconscious. And it just grew and grew and grew. So by the time I was, 18, I had all these really deep patterns and programs for just being in the world totally numb. And I was using a lot of alcohol and a lot of cannabis to just continue to shove everything down inside of myself, because I didn't feel like it was a safe environment to truly be myself. And when I moved away, I got far away for college. I was like, I gotta get out, because there was this voice inside of me. And I know you know this voice. It's your intuition, right? It's in your internal guidance that was just constantly saying, hey, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better, right? And I moved away because I figured at that time that if I really wanted to figure out who I was, because I was really just living this persona, this tomboy, athletic Jessica version that really just allowed for my family to feel comfortable, right? Because I lived with my dad for most of my life, and pretty much he was the athlete, so how I related with him was through sports. Yet I really just wanted to dance and I wanted to do girly things. That said, because of the situation of how things unfolded in my reality, I was put into this world where to bond, and I wanted to bond because my dad is awesome. He's a really great dude, and I wanted to bond with him. So I put on this mask of playing sports and pretending that I liked those things, when really I didn't care. It wasn't my truth. What I loved was the stars and nature, and I loved the planets, and I loved philosophy, and I loved studying the nature of the reality, which is why I chose to go to a religious school to begin with. Right? I loved these things that we couldn't meet on. So where we could meet was in something else. So I just wore these masks and continued along my journey. Right? And in wearing these masks, we forget who we truly are, and we start to take them off, and we start to get a little bit clearer and clearer and clearer on who we are. And what I'm sharing with you now is the journey that I went on. Because from what you see my videos, you see, hundreds and thousands of people have watched my live videos and are tuned into this page, and I'm constantly doing programs and working with people. So clearly I'm in a place where I'm able to express and articulate myself and deliver a message. And if there's one thing that I receive comments on more, is that people resonate with the way I speak my truth and the frequency that I'm able to deliver my message through. And this frequency is something that is my soul sound. And we all have a soul sound, and our soul sound is lost when we put on masks and we start to just silence that soul sound. And our soul sound is the frequency that we speak through that instantly sends a direct line up to our higher bodies, to our soul, to our causal bodies, to our higher planes, and allows us to access and allow that frequency of us to move through our body. Yet when we're speaking through our masks, we're speaking through our personality, through the ego, aka we're speaking through lenses and frequency bandwidths of fear, the higher parts of us can't move through those frequencies. They speak and they move at higher frequencies. So remembering our soul sound brings us back and allows us to open up our throats and express through our soul frequency, which is such an amazing practice. And it's actually one of the practices that are going to be in the Express Your Soul course, which I'll share a little bit about with you all in this dialogue that we're having now, because it's amazing. I'm super stoked about it. That said, just continuing to move along this journey and sharing with you a bit of my story as to, how I got here, and that it was not an easy journey. I really consider my ability to be my true self and to speak my truth to have been my biggest wounding in this life. And my throat chakra was just crunched. And if you look at my astrology or my human design or any of the blueprints of my soul, there's one thing that speaks to all of them, is that I have a message and that I'm here to speak and to communicate and to write and to share through teaching how to communicate. And when I started to uncover this, I was like, this is crazy, because I can't even talk to my friends about what's going on in my reality. How would I ever be someone that's going to share with someone about how they can speak their truth? I was living in two different worlds, right? So that journey was continual, and it was just constantly evolving, and I was constantly getting feedback from my environment throughout university as well. I remember one time I wrote a paper for a political science class, and I was a poli-sci major at the time, and I ended up dropping the major after that class, actually, because we had a paper to write at the end of the course. And this paper was a perspective paper based on research that we would do about a particular president, any president that we chose. And at the end, we were then to read our paper to the course, and our presentation of the paper was actually a part of the grade. So I wrote this paper about President Bush and about 9/11 and about, the conspiracy behind it all, that said this was like not as common knowledge as it is right now on the planet. And I dug really deep, and I wrote this just spectacular paper. And on the day that we were supposed to go and read our papers and get our papers back, the teacher, actually, the professor, called me outside and shared with me that he loved my paper, that he had thought similar things himself, and that he was giving me an A. And then he said, the class is not ready to hear this yet, and I'm not going to let you read your paper. So I was silenced, literally silenced, for my perspective again. And this was common. This was happening so often because this was a cool wound. And what it was all doing was it was silencing me so that I could learn how to open, so that I could learn how to take off all these masks, to open up my throat, to heal my root causes that, kept me silenced for so long, so that I could then step into my true power as a Haumna, as this essence of my soul, and really share. And it was a very long journey of tapping into this. And if you've been following me along in these social media pages, you've seen a lot of my unfolding, because part of my purpose here is to continually be sharing, because through sharing, I actually learn more. And it's like just a part of this Projector 1-3 design, is that as I speak and as I share, I actually receive more and learn more through the reflection that you all offer. And it's a really beautiful dynamic that I love playing out in this life. That said, I went the long path, the hard and challenging, and the albeit incredibly painful journey of learning how to step into my truth. And I had some incredible teachers and some incredible tools and practices get passed along to me along the way. And some of those teachers were partners that just really highlighted that there was this part of me that couldn't show up, and I felt it inside of me. It was like there was this version, there was this person living inside of my body, and she was like knocking and clawing on my skin to speak, and yet the words just wouldn't come out. And when they would come out, it would be like shaky and very disempowered and afraid, right? So then the frequency that the words that were able to come out were coming through was this riddled in fear, which then when you're speaking in fear, it then triggers that fear in whomever you're speaking to, whether it's an audience, whether it's a partner, whether it's a parent, and then their natural response to you is going to be a fear response. So then you're constantly meeting people in the shadows, in fear, which then stops us from doing exactly what we want to do, which is connect, which is share ourselves, which is speak our truth, and really be in that union with each other, right? So along my journey, I've picked up a tremendous amount of practice and skill and tool and technique and awareness of really what's happening deep down in our cores, in our subconscious, inside of us that stops us from expressing our truth. Fear, which shows up as our personality, right? Our personality is pretty much, and I love what one of my teachers, Logan, shared with me once on a call that we had, where he was like, the personality is just all of your masks of fear. It's just all of your fears creating your personality. So this personality, this persona that you're living as, is just your fears walking and talking through your life, at least at the current space of consciousness that I was at that time, right? Very identified with myself, very identified with me as a being and all my beliefs and all my experiences. And that personality was constantly then meeting others. So I was constantly meeting people in their fear. So then this whole fear response was constantly happening, and there was this lack of connection, this lack of ability to truly communicate with another. So fear, our personality, is a huge block, because when we pick up these patterns at such a young age, then we create a mask, right? So we hear the story, it's not safe to be your true self here. It's not safe in this world to speak what's on your heart, to be emotional, to be vulnerable, to share what you're intuiting, to be your full luminous self. So when we pick up that belief becomes a mask that we wear. It becomes a part of our personality, and it becomes the way that we move through the world. So then when we start to unpeel these masks and we start to want to, tap into our ability to express ourselves, a lot of people who come in and play with me in this world of reality, they know they have a message to deliver. We all have a message to deliver to this world. We all have a gift to share. We all have a brilliant genius living within us that has something magnificent to offer this world. And in order for us to offer it, we have to be able to articulate and communicate it. And it's like there'll be this part of us that knows, okay, I've got this message to share, and this wisdom to offer the world. And yet every time I go to share it, this block comes up, this throat gets scratchy, or my solar plexus shuts down, or I get nervous and anxiety and all these things. Well, that anxiety is actually the creative energy moving through you, and we've been taught that our creative energy is bad or wrong, right? This anxious, like, bubbling up is bad or wrong, because we were taught that our sexual energy is bad or wrong. So instead of feeling that anxiety and taking it on as, oh my God, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I can't do this, turn it down, no, I'm not going to go live, I'm not going to spread my message, I'm not going to post this blog, I'm not going to call that person, I'm not going to talk to my lover. We shut all that down, because we don't realize that that is actually our creative energy, and it's getting turned on, and our ability to learn how to harness that power and move it through us instead of having it bubble up and block us is a part of learning how to express your soul, learning how to express yourself fully. And that's another one of the gems that we're going to be diving into in the Express Your Soul course, which begins on 10/10, for a little plug into that right there. Anyways, uh, abandonment, someone is coming in and saying abandonment, right? This is another one of those core wounds that show up, right? The rejection, this feeling like if you express yourself, if you share what's going on inside of you, that you're going to be rejected and abandoned, that who your lover is going to leave you, that your friends are not going to want to be your friends anymore, that your parents aren't going to understand you, and then maybe they'll stop supporting you, and then maybe you'll end up homeless, and all the other things that the scared part of us starts to create. It creates this whole world of what's going to happen with everyone abandoning me. And it goes down to this core ancient ancestral epigenetic wounding of the human species from when we were living in tribes, where if the tribe abandoned you, kicked you out, you would have to go out there and live with grizzly bears and, in some parts of the world, tigers and lions, and it wasn't safe. You would quite literally likely die if you were abandoned by the tribe, because you couldn't survive without the tribe. So that core wounding that was picked up ancient is still operating within us in our root chakra, and our root chakra is turned on those first few years of life. So we're playing out these patterns and we're picking up the stories of it. Even now, there's this huge tribal consciousness on the planet, in the conscious spiritual community, that's like, okay, well, we need our tribe because our tribe is safe, right? And we can express ourselves in our tribe, and we can communicate ourselves in our tribe. But what happens if that tribe decides that you're no longer spiritual enough for it or conscious enough for it, and you get pushed out, and then you got to go live with all the muggles or whatever you want to call it? Doesn't even matter. How are you going to express yourself then? Because you were still relying on that safety of that tribe, right? So what I'm talking about is an expression of your soul from a sovereign place that isn't dependent upon anyone, right? That knows that abandonment isn't possible, right? And it goes down to the core, deepest part of us to transmute any stories that says it's not safe to be in this world as your true, radiant, luminescent soul self. Right? So this abandonment one, we go so deep into it. We go all the way back in this journey into the womb. When we're in the womb and our root chakra is beginning to develop, because that's when it starts to get picked up. Your ears are the first organ in your body that develops. You want to know why? Because they're picking up information. They're picking up sound frequencies, and they're storing imprints. So when I started to go into the core of these stories that blocked me from expressing who I was, a lot of them are picked up all the way back into the womb. So to really go into this abandonment and rejection, which then leads us to, this is the biggest one, feeling worthy. Feeling worthy in this world. If there's one thing that I hear more than anything when it comes to showing up for yourself, when it comes to scarcity programs, when it comes to your business, your life, your partnerships, your family, all of it, no matter what I'm supporting someone processing through, whether it was a traumatic abuse experience or whether it was like their epic dreams coming to fruition and not being able to say yes to it. When we get to the core of it all, it's this story that I'm not worthy. This worthiness story that's so deeply imprinted into the collective. And there's so much energy going out into the story right now. And what we're going to do is really, truly get to the core of it, because the core of it was picked up in the womb. The core of it was picked up in the roots and all the way down into your centers, into the earth. And in order to fully eradicate and transmute that story of worthiness so that you can step into your power as your true self, right? Fully alive in your being. It means that you got to integrate the story of feeling unworthy. Right? Because if you don't feel worthy, then that chronic depressiveness in your body is always going to be there. then that inability to really grab that epic vision that you've been holding is always going to be there. Right? So the worthiness story is so important. It is going to be deeply dissected and integrated in our journey together. So we have abandonment and rejection, our fears, right? Our personality. We have the worthiness story. And then we have just the downright resistance that comes in our body, right? That moment when you try to speak and it's like crickets just move through your throat, or your throat literally shuts down and your body like tenses up and closes down and you're like, I don't know what to do. I can't speak. I'm just going to turn inwards and I'm going to be a turtle. I'm going to go into my turtle shell because my turtle shell is safe and then I don't have to express, and maybe I'll stick my head out. Maybe not. Right? So the actual resistance in the body, which requires a total transmutation of energy inside of your body, right? Requires a learning how to actually harness the power of your creative energy internally, how to actually shift resistance in a second. Because you can shift out of resistance. You can shift out of anything in a second if you understand how energy moves through a human body. You can shift anything. And we're going to be playing with that as well. Because the whole message, right, that I'm so excited about, and I'm really just like, this course, the Express Your Soul course, is a direct manifestation of the ability within myself to claim and to choose to allow Ahomna to be this human being. And the journey of getting here was years and years and years of unpacking. And I found the gems of that journey so that it can be a shorter path and that more people can come fully alive. And just, y'all, I just want us to be who we truly are. Because that's when we're happy. That's when we're at peace. That's when we feel connected to each other. That's when we're able to have harmonious relationships and thriving businesses and exciting experiences, and we're able to play more. That's when it all happens, when we're all just fully feeling uninhibited to just be our true freaking soul selves. When we're not letting our filters and our fears govern our reality, create our reality, decide who we're going to be communing with. And a beautiful part about the 1-3, if I'm going to just go into a little human design talk because that's just what I do. And something that I find so valuable to understand is that 1-3 line of my personality, which is this trial and error. It's like my journey here is to constantly be trying and failing and trying and succeeding so that I can see what works. And it's a lifelong path of constantly being in this trial and error phase so that others don't have to go down it. The 1-3's brilliance is that we try and fail because we don't see failure. When I fail at something, I don't like beat myself up and think I fail. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool, that doesn't work. Let's see what does. And I try a different route. And through this constantly trying and correcting and altering, I find this magic path, this wormhole through the matrix that allows people to quickly move through shit that took me 15, 20 years to move through in a few weeks, in a few months. Because that's the magic. When you understand the way this energy works and really how to just get to it, you can get to it so quickly and transmute it so quickly. And that's what Express Your Soul is about. It's about getting to the core of why we fear speaking our truth and being who we are so that we can put our message out into the world. And it's going to be so fun. And it's going to be challenging for a lot of people and rewarding, because those challenges, those moments when you're going to be invited to speak your truth authentically in a very safe and private container that everyone's going to be signing a little confidentiality waiver around, because that's how sacred of a space I'm creating with this, so that people can truly actually have practice knowing what it feels like to stand in the power of their true soul self, because that's what it's all about. So now that I've kind of gone on my little rant here, I'm just going to see some of these questions and comments that came in. And it's been struggling being in this world. I'm struggling being in this world. I so hear you. Invite the light. I was just having a conversation with actually a couple of different people, because this is something that I constantly return to, is like, what is the purpose of being here? Right? I constantly am going back into the space of like, I really don't need to be here because I see everything that's happening. And I can create anything. If there's something I really want to create, it's kind of boring. And then I struggle to be here because I feel like I'm bored. But really all I'm missing is I'm missing this alignment with my true self in those moments. So anytime I'm struggling, it's not because of anything external. It's because I've lost touch with who I truly am and the magic of being so in aligned with myself that it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could be sitting in a cave in the middle of nowhere and I would be fulfilled. Right? So that struggle is self-created. It's because of the masks that we're wearing that come up. And as we take those masks off and we learn how to be ourselves, and for a lot of you watching this video, this is something that's wanting to come through right now, just tuning into the collective field of who's watching this. A lot of you, this big piece is going to be being yourself around your family, being able to be who you truly are around your family, because a lot of us we are the light bearers, we are the way showers, we are the destructive energetics that's being born, the black sheep of the family, that's being born to literally wake up our whole families and wake up our whole communities. And we're like, how do I do that? Because they know me as this person and I'm not that person anymore. And any time I try to be who I truly am, like I just get shut down, or I get criticized, or I get blamed, or I get yelled at, all these things, or I get called crazy. Y'all, when I first started speaking my truth via social media, my parent, and I'm choosing my words wisely because I got so much love for both of my parents that I'm not gonna like call them out and point them out in this. That said, one of my parents flew out to California where I was living and questioned my sanity and if I needed to be committed to like a mental institution, because all I was doing was I was starting to be my true self, and they had never seen that. They had never seen that person before. They didn't understand who I was, and they thought I needed help. Right? And I'm sure that I'm not the only one that has had this experience, and I know I'm not for a fact because people message me, well, I still get super triggered by my family. I still get super triggered by these people that have been really close to me. They keep wanting to pull me back into this person that I was. And I don't know how to be myself. And there have been so many moments. Actually, funny that I bring this up, because literally I was back home for just a couple of days to pick up my things when we flew back from Aruba, and I went home. And the first conversation that I had with one of my parents was, Jess, I need to talk to you. It's about what you're writing on your website. People are having a problem with it. Literally, still, this conversation of not being able to just let me be who the fuck I truly am, because it distorts the comfort that they've created around who they want me to be, right? So it's still continually, yet I'm at a place now where I'm going to swear because I really don't care. I don't give a fuck what anyone has to say about what I'm speaking, because it's my truth. And if it triggers something inside of someone, yes, because that part of them is ready to be healed and they can now see it clearly. And that's just what it is. So allowing myself this opportunity, and I know that is when you learn how to no longer be triggered by your family, when you learn how to be your true self to your family, you will be able to speak to anyone, and also your lovers. This is another place there's a lot of wounding around, especially for, well, actually I'm not even gonna go into gender, because it's just overall. There's a lot of wounding around being able to express our truth to our partners, right? So all of this This ability to express your soul, it's not only about delivering your message through your live videos and through your blogs and through your ability to speak. It's about having deeper relationships with your family, with your friends, with your lovers, because you're being your true self. And when you're wearing your personality, when you're wearing the masks, people can't connect with you deeply. And what we all are really wanting is connection. We want to be back in the unity. We want to be back in the unity consciousness. So there's part of us that's always like, yes, I just want to hug. I just want to connect. I just want to be seen and heard and valued. Right? And when we're not being our true selves, when we're not speaking what's on our hearts, we're never going to be able to be seen or heard or valued. And we're setting ourselves up. We're self-sabotaging ourselves. So just going back into some of these comments that have come through here. And Elizabeth says, where was I upset? And I'm not sure what that was directing at, but upset, this energy of sadness, is actually something really beautiful. And I was crying a lot yesterday. I took 36 hours of no technology, except for when I was called to watch Avatar. And it was because there was this deep grief that wanted to move through me, and I required something in my environment to trigger that so that I could have this release. And I cried for like the next 4 hours. And what I see sadness as is an opportunity to see what I truly resonate with, what I truly radiate in my being as truth. And I'm able to see parts of myself more deeply. So yeah, there are times when I'm upset, and I think that's so beautiful and so healing and so revealing in those moments. And our ability to express our soul means our ability to like understand and appreciate all of our emotional experiences, including anger, including sadness, including depression. This is a big one. And I've spoken about my interactions with depression in this life, which have been pretty much lifelong. And a big piece of that was because I was literally depressing, pushing down my true self. And the thing about depression is it's actually a mechanism of our root chakra that's supposed to be this pressure that pulls us up out of delusion and into truth. But when we're pushing ourselves down, then it just gets stuck inside of us, and it feels so fucking uncomfortable and painful. And it's like we're trapped in this suffering. And a big piece of getting out of that is through actually seeing the mechanism, the victimhood that we're self-creating, and pull ourselves out of it by being able and willing to accept and appreciate who we truly are, so that we can allow that energy, that pressure to actually pull us into our truth. And I won't go any more deeply into that because that's like a conversation for a totally other video. We're going to stick to some of these questions here before we wrap it up. Accept that you are the issuance of your fears, and the fear of another is reciprocal. Thus, if one does speak in power, I actually am not understanding that question, so I'm going to come back to that in written word. Lately, I'm feeling caught up in the rat race, wanting to get back to simple life. I do create all kinds of struggle, not needed. I'm trying to recognize this and stop. I like meeting people who are my kind of crazy, yes, who don't get trapped and triggered by family. I'm also getting to the point of giving no fucks. Amazing. And that's really, there is a key in the Gene Keys, and I'm a huge fan of the Gene Keys. There's so much that you can unpack and discover within yourselves through that transmission. That said, there's a piece of it, and the shadow is, and I'm not remembering what key it is exactly, that said the shadow of it is indifference, and the gift, I believe, is difference, and I believe the city is your genius, or is something along, it's a different word that said it was pretty much talking about your genius. And the only way that you can ever tap into your genius, tap into your gifts, tap into your magic, is if you're willing to be different. And because we have this societal program, And because we want to fit in, right, then we go back to that core root tribal fear that I've talked about. Because we want so badly to fit in, we fear being different. And when we're unwilling to be different, then we'll never be our true selves. Because your true self, your true expression of your soul is unique. There is only one of you. And you have a very unique essence and a unique gift and a unique frequency and a unique message and a unique experience that you're here to have. Even if you're in twin dynamics, because we do have, twin aspects of the higher planes that come down, and anyways, conversation for another time. Even in those scenarios, each being has a different role, a different purpose to fulfill, a different experience to be had, right? And the only way that we can ever tap into that is if we're willing to be different. And our willingness to be different, a part of that is actually coming to a space where you stop really caring what other people think about you. And in order to get there, it doesn't mean you don't care about them. Truly getting to a space where you don't care what other people think about you means you care so much about another person. You just don't, you want to meet them in your heart and in their hearts. And it's not their heart that's thinking shit, that's judging and criticizing and projecting and blaming and shaming and guilting. It's not their heart. It's their own stories, their own fears, their own projections and beliefs that they've created based off their own pain, their own karma. So when you get to a space of not caring what other people think, you're actually caring so much about them. You are inviting them moment by moment, breath by breath, to meet you in your heart and in their hearts. So when people hear, oh, you don't care what people think about you, they might think, oh, well, you're a bitch, or you're this, or you're that, and then they go and start judging and shaming. And what you're actually doing is you're showing up and holding this space to really connect with someone in the heart, right? And that's what it's really about, is getting to that point. And Nina is asking me, can I please speak to how to get out of depression sometimes? So I speak to this because it's important. It's very important. We cannot get out of depression. We can't get out of anything, right? The only way out is to go through it, right? We've heard this before. The only way out is to go through it. So what depression actually is energetically is an energy in your root center, and it puts pressure. It squeezes you. Literally, it starts to squeeze you from a root chakra, which is a very physical experience. Whereas our crown also has pressure. That said, it pressures your mind, and it creates all these crazy thoughts and stories and beliefs, right? And just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and creates this mental pressure to figure things out. That said, the pressure of the root creates this depression that's felt deep into the core. It's like cellular, this just fatigue and this drain and this deep feeling of like, gosh, I just don't want to be here, right? And we want to get out of that because it sucks. It doesn't feel good. I'll be real with you. I've been in it for a very long time. It doesn't feel good. That's why we can't get out of it. We've got to recognize what depression is trying to do. Every emotion is trying to communicate something to us. When we are not seeing ourselves clearly, we cannot commune with our emotions clearly. And what depression energetically is there to trigger is a pressure that creates a response from you to begin asking questions and to begin seeking, to begin rising up into truth. So the depression comes down and pressures you. It pushes you and pushes you and pushes you. And what it's trying to do is push you to question the meaning of your existence, to question the meaning of why you feel like shit, why your body hurts, why this or that or the other thing is going on, why you keep continuing to have these terrible relationships. That depression is trying to get you to ask questions so that you can understand the core of what's really going on in your reality, and then you rise up and out of it by going through it completely. What ends up happening, though, because we live in this world of over consumption, and consumerism is we get sold this story that depression is bad or wrong and that we've got to make it go away. And so we get handed these little pills, or we get handed this little rolled paper of some plant, or we get handed this bottle of some fermented alcohol. Here, take this. You won't feel it anymore. That pressure, though, is still there because it's a design, it's an energy that is for your growth. It's how you actually begin your spiritual quest. You start to understand the true nature of your being through this pressure, this depression of energy. Yet when we numb it, we try to make it go away because it sucks, right? I've said this already, it sucks. It really is painful. We're in this journey, this rat race of like just numbing our pain and running and running and running. And I'm going to tell you the truth. To be fully embodied as your highest self that you can attain in this moment right now, you cannot run away from your pain. You cannot numb it out. And I've learned that firsthand from 20-something years of self-medicating, call it that, to shut up that voice that wanted to die every day and to numb the pain of feeling like I didn't belong here. Depression. So the key, right, is recognizing that that energy is actually serving you, just like anger serves, just like sadness serves, just like happiness and joy and pleasure and all of the spectrum of emotions in between serve you. The key is understanding how these energies work and how they're trying to serve you. So depression is an energy that's pressing you to begin questioning the true nature of your existence, the true nature of what's happening inside of your world so you can get to the core of it and integrate it. And that is all I'll share on that for now. And so let's see, there's some energies that come through here on Instagram. Yeah. Racing thoughts, right? This is mastering your mind. If you have racing thoughts, practice meditation. There is a reason why meditation has been on the planet for as long as it has been. There is a reason why the most effective people on the planet meditate. There is a reason why the most peaceful people on the planet meditate, because it works. It is a way of silencing the mind so that you can hear the truth. Anyways, yay! Just seeing you all and feeling you all, and I'm in love with you too. All the love coming in. Anyways, I'm sharing this because it's all coming together now. And this whole journey that I've been on, now being in the radiance of Ahamna and feeling at home, fully at home, able to share with you and commune with you in this way, express your soul has come as a result. And it is this sacred creative container for harnessing your truth, expressing your power, moving through everything that we've talked about in this video rapidly and being supported in that. Right? So if you have a message to share, if you have something on your heart you want to speak to your lover, to your family, or to your friends, if you're ready to really own your power and your creativity and your expression, this is for you. This is my offering for you to join me. And we begin October 10th, 10/10/2018, 11/11/11, new beginnings of soul embodied truth. And I will leave the link for those of you on Instagram. The link is in my bio. That said, you can swipe up to see the link as well in my story. And for those of you on Facebook, I'll leave the link here for you to explore it. And if you have questions, Send me a message. I made this course super affordable because I want as many people as possible that resonate with to be able to join. And I also made the payment plans incredibly accessible. This isn't like a gouge you out. This is something that is for everyone, because ultimately, I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes that I sent out to email my email group the other day. Is by Henry Thoreau, right? Yeah, I think that's his name. Anyways, he says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is people who have come fully alive.